Welcome back to this week's episode of I'm Set the Podcast. We have Stanley Remy joining us. He is a basketball skills trainer based right here in South Florida. Stanley, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes.
Is it Stanley or Stan or Remy?
Remy, really. I hate my name. Stanley, to be honest with you. But everyone calls me Remy, so I've adapted to that.
Okay, Remy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today it's Remy too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you got your start. I understand you were born in Boston.
Yes.
Raised in Miami Gardens.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And raised in Cooper City as well, so split time between the both. How I got my start into the basketball training world. Obviously, I played basketball on most of the levels, from high school to college at a high level. So always loved the game as a kid. My brother introduced it to me, beat me up playing it, got me tough, and created a love for it. How I got my start with training was I would consider myself probably like an average basketball player when I was early on in high school, 9th and 10th grade, until I met my best friend, Keon Doolin, right? Keon Doolin was a 13-year NBA veteran. He had gotten drafted top 10 to the Clippers at the time. And when I met him, he was a free agent and just signed with the Miami Heat. So a couple of my friends, we always go to LA Fitness, and back then, we didn't have any trainers. People like me was non-existent. It was literally just playing against older people or going in the middle of the hood and just finding your way, right?
Wow.
So that was the way we got better.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of my friends, we were just at LA Fitness playing, battling, against each other, and Keon was there. And he was actually lifting weights. He wasn't even doing any basketball. So he walks through the glass and he sees us and he's like, "Man, who are those kids? They're like playing really, really hard." So he walked in and he was like, "Can I join y'all? I just want to, and I didn't know who he was, to be honest with you." And he's a Broward County legend because we didn't know that. Like, South Florida is football based.
Right.
They're not. So, but one of my teammates, he knew exactly who he was, but didn't mention it. Because as a competitor, he just wanted to play against him, and we just played. That turned into 2 days, that turned into 10 days, that turned into everything, every day during the summertime. And we just created an amazing bond, and he taught us really how to work on our games, actually train, not just play freely, right? When I went to college, it was funny. I started training my own teammates. So we would come in the gym at night, and I would say, "Let's work on these things." Because Keon taught me it. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I just know it helped me tremendously. It put me in this position, right? I'm in right now to get a college scholarship to play basketball, which I never thought was in my dreams of doing until I met him and just got better. So I knew when I was done playing college basketball, I wanted to inspire kids. Forget where I'm at now. I didn't even have the thought of that. I just wanted to inspire kids, get them better, teach them the things that I didn't have, so that they can have an opportunity to go to college. That was like my main thing. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got started into it.
Love it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, you're playing college basketball,
right,
and obviously that's over. How do you transition from college basketball and say, okay, I'm going to take these skills that I've learned and, introduce NBA training or basketball training?
Well, to me, it starts with kids, right? Training somebody that, has just a dream, like they're not already in a professional situation. Training somebody with just a dream and a mindset to want to get better, but not understand how to get better. So through that of just training so many kids, we were able to develop, NBA stars like Brandon Knight or somebody that I met like in 10th grade, and Vernon Carey Jr., who's now with Washington Wizards, who I started with in the 6th grade. You know what I mean? So like that right there was like the formula, right? Like it let me know that I was doing something correctly, that these kids were getting better so quickly, and I was sending so many kids to college that didn't even have that in their dreams, similar to me. So I was like, that is the formula. Like I wasn't so hung on NBA players, right? So even though Keon Doolin was my good friend, he didn't let me train him because he didn't think I was ready yet. And that was the best thing he ever did, because I was able to keep learning, right? Learning the craft until one day he was like, "You're ready. I can tell you're ready. the way you study my game. Like, he used to have this 5-minute rule, because he know after games I was ready to call him, hey, you should have did this, you should have did that. So he'd be like, all right, Remy, you know, I've been dealing with basketball all day. I just played a full game. I'm only giving you 3 minutes of conversation. Then we're gonna be friends. Like, I just wanna, how's your life going? How was this? How was that? When you coming up to see me? Like, things like that. So he would give me those 3 minutes, and I would literally turn that into 40 minutes without him even knowing. And he would be like, you ready? So one summer he gave me a chance. I remember he came in as a non-3-point shooter. He was just very athletic guy that would drive to the basket most of the time, get to his pull-up. So to me, I was like, that's just one area of 3-point shooting that I feel like we can fix, and you can add longevity to your career. And back then there was no social media and things like that, so it was like only a couple networks like NBA TV or TNT that would have a show. So one day he hit like 6 threes in a game, and he was like, they asked him what changed. Like, you came in, your field goal percentage went up, your 3-point percentage went up. What changed in your routines to cause you to start shooting the ball so much better? And he said my name on national TV, and it went crazy. All his teammates, all his friends around the NBA was like, whoever that guy is, I want to be a part of that. So that's how it started blowing up NBA wise.
Got you.
Were you ready for that moment though?
Yeah, because the crafting, that's what people don't realize. They see where I'm at now and they think it happened overnight. No, I was doing it for many years before seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's the hardest thing for people, even in life, with anything, right? To keep crafting in something that you believe in and not see any benefits from it. How do you keep going? What causes you to keep going? The love for it caused me to keep going. So not worrying about any kind of positive reinforcement, just knowing that I'm doing something that I love. If something great comes out of it, something great comes out of it.
So there was a time that you were on a team and your team had lost several times, and you asked the coach if you could write the plays.
Wow, you really did your homework.
So the point of me mentioning this is that you think a little different.
For sure.
Right? So the average player isn't thinking about the plays for the team, they're thinking about how they can play the game.
Right.
So in order for you to be a trainer, right, what are some of those qualities, or when did you realize that your thought process, your ability was different?
Wow, I'm excited that you guys really do your homework. That's a real sentimental, personal story of mine that lets me know that this was something that I knew I had to do. I didn't know how to craft it, whether I was going to be a coach, whether I was going to be a water boy around the game, whatever it is. I didn't know what it was going to turn into this, but I knew I had to do something with basketball for that reason, right? So that story is unique. So we used to play this team called Stranahan. They used to beat us all the time, right? So they beat us 2 times during the regular season, and we knew,
But not just beat you, blew you out.
They beat us really bad, and it's like a neighborhood rival. So you hear the chatter, right? So we get to the playoffs. We beat the first round, and now we got to play them district championship. Everyone on our team's like, oh, here we go again. We're about to lose. So we get 3 days to prepare for this. And the first day, we're preparing, and it looks the same way as we were preparing before. I'm like, we're about to lose again. Look at how we're preparing. So I asked my coach, I said, hey, coach.
And you're how old at this point?
I am 17 at the time.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, coach, listen. I've been doing my research on this team. I've been scouting this team. I want to watch film with you. Is there any way you can excuse me for the day? Because it's going to take some time. He believed in it so much that how serious I was. He asked for a sub for him. And he excused me from all my class duties. And we were in his office for literally 7 hours crafting out these things. So I was already telling him, hey, this person likes to dribble left. This person likes to do this. I even said, Coach, I know I've been starting all year. Take me out. Put in, we need a rim protector. They get a lot of points in the paint. Let's put in our good friend Darnell, who's a good friend of mine, Decoy, we used to call him. Let's put him in there just to show a different look, and then I'll come off the bench, and do my thing. Don't worry. He's like, you sure? Like, you're a senior. Like, you got. I was like, listen, I'm good. This is gonna help us win, right? I understood winning is better than individual, right? So we come in, it was a lot of crafting. We practice now, and it's like I turned into like the coach. I was like, "No, you go here. He's going to be doing this," and everyone was just like on board. They were like, "Wow, you look like you really," and we won. And we won a district championship. And I remember the next day, my coach was heavy into church, heavy. Every Wednesday, he would even miss practice for Bible study. He came to me, he said, "I don't know what it is in basketball that you're going to do, but God has given me a message that you're going to be super successful in basketball." So in my mind at 17, I'm like, I'm going to the NBA. Like, I'm going to be doing something in basketball. And the thing about it, it always stuck to me, even when I wanted to either quit basketball or something. No, he prophesied me. So I have to keep going and figure out what it is that I'm going to do with basketball. And I just kept going. And anytime it was a low point, I said, "Nope, I've been prophesied. I cannot quit." So
for the viewers, those of you guys that are watching, we have Stanley Remy here with us, trainer extraordinaire out of South Florida. Can you share some of the names, right? Because a lot of people want to know, well, who has he trained?
Right,
what's his track record?
Right. I've worked with guys like James Harden, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, Paul George, bunch of people. A lot of Andre Drummond, Jeff Green, Brandon Knight, Udonis Haslem, James Jones, who's now the president of the Phoenix Suns, which is amazing. A lot of people. And it's great because it's multiple generations. I've been doing it a while, but I'm really still 22 years old.
So going back to all of that, obviously you've trained a lot of people and you know the basketball ins and out, the mechanics, all of that. But when you're dealing with these guys and it's different personalities, everybody has different views, you are more than just a basketball trainer to them. Like, you're sort of like their therapist and you guide them. So how do you guide these grown men, mentally wise?
Well, first thing, you have to build trust, right? Like, these guys, a lot of these, and I hate to say it, but a lot of them come from broken homes, right? Yeah. So, like, if you don't have a man in your life, they don't respect men. Like, men telling them to do certain things, it's tough for them to, incorporate any kind of information that you're giving them because they've always been standoffish about men. So first thing is just gaining their trust. I have to gain their trust, right? In order to gain their trust, even though it's a transactional, right? It starts off as a transactional relationship, which I'll get into later, which is super important because money is involved, right? It's my business. They're paying me, so whenever somebody's paying you to do something, 9 times out of 10 they lose the respect, right? It's more like you work for me.
Right.
So I changed that environment right away. You have to change that environment, and I think that it's always been something to me to be super close with my athletes. I'm always like really good friends with my athletes. And that's not a given. That doesn't have to always be like that, but for me, I might just, "Hey, how's your day going? How's your family? How's your kids? How you feeling today?" Like these things are super important because how can I give you information if you're already at a capacity, right? Let's empty some of that load, right? You might be going through stress with certain things. Let's deal with that. Before we even talk about basketball, let's deal with that so we can unwind, right? And then now when I'm giving you information, it's easier to resuscitate the information. So
is this how you're changing the environment?
100%.
Okay.
That's important because we might do lunch, we might just talk, and we were out there for 2 hours and didn't even talk basketball 1 minute. I think that's important because once they trust you, their guard is down. You have to think when you make it that high, you're probably first generational money, right? And I've seen it over the years, like they've become teachers, doctors, and everything in their family only because they're rich, right? So if somebody needs a pacemaker, they call them, "What should I do?" "I don't know, I'm just rich through basketball," right? Or, "Hey, my son's doing terrible in math, can you talk to him?" Math was my worst subject. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just rich through basketball. So they become the 911 call for everything. So before teaching you stuff, right, let's release that. And I found that being super successful for me because I can tell they're way more resuscitating to my information. They gravitated towards it quicker. And then also finding out how somebody learns. Everybody learns differently. It's not one way or the highway. And I think that it's important to understand how somebody learns, because I can have one way, and if this person is not receptive to it, forget about it. I can be talking to him till he's blue in the face, and it might be black and white to me, but it's not to him. So I have to find out how he learns. And once I find out how he learns, it's all she wrote. Now it's like yin and yang with me and him. He's finishing my sentences, and it's never no ego for me. Even though I'm the teacher, I learn from them all the time, and I let them know that you taught me something about you. Who knows better about you than you? And I'm helping you, so you can help me learn about you, so I can help you the best, right? So it's like one big, and I don't think that trainers sometimes give them that stage. It's like my show. It's never my show. It's your show. I'm here for you. And I make sure they understand that I am here for you to get you better, be your eyes and ears, right? That's why somebody like me as a personal coach is important. When they're with their team, their head coach has 15 babies they got to worry about. For me, I'm worried about one baby, how he walks, how he talks, how he runs, how he jumps. I'm seeing everything, your body language on your bench, how you're receptive to negativity, how you're receptive to positivity. Like, I can see everything that they might not be so particular looking at. So while hiring somebody like me is important, because now I can say, hey, you did this, and he didn't realize he was doing it, but the team will criticize you about it, right? So I'm like the eyes and ears that they probably don't have.
Right.
Have you ever had I'm sorry. Want to go ahead?
Because I wanted to ask you, because I know you have worked with some of the best NBA players in the game, right? Have you ever experienced, though, even though they hire you as a trainer, them coming in as if they're the trainer and pretty much trying to tell you how to do your job?
Oh, 100%. And you have to, for one, that happened early on in my career. As an up-and-coming trainer, you still have NBA guys under your belt. That's what makes them pick you, right? But now what solidifies me in the game is training somebody like a Dwayne Wade, right? Like that's so like if I'm a player, it's like how can I come in here and act this way? If Dwayne Wade respects him, I have no choice but to respect him. So I think Dwayne Wade was so pivotal for me, not because he was the best player I ever worked with, but he was so instrumental in solidifying me as one of those guys, right? To be respected. You go to Remy, he is respected. He trained a Hall of Famer. This guy's one of the top 25 players that ever do it. So if he can be with him, I have to do it. And I've had a player, I won't say his name, he's notorious for this. He's like, Remy, man, this summer's gonna be great. We're gonna work. I hope you got a bunch of stuff for me. You've been watching my game. And then he comes in the gym, hey, listen, this is what we're gonna do. So what's the point of hiring me?
Right.
Right, what's the point of getting my expertise? So what I do is I kill them with education. Okay, what you want to work on? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I talked to your team. This is how they want to use you, right? This is who they want you to be. They write the checks, so guess what? We can't go against the grain. This is what you want to do, but this is what they want you to do. So how about we master what they want first, and then we build their trust, and then we can say, hey, if they didn't want you shooting threes and they just wanted you to be a great rebounder, let's be the best rebounder in the world so that when you do shoot 1 3, they're really not mad about it. They're like, you know what? He did his job. He did one thing we don't like, whatever. But if you come in doing what they don't like and you have your own reservation of what you want to get better at, now you're going against the grain. So when you kill him with education, you know what? He's been doing his research. Come on, whatever you got for me, I'm with it. I'm locked in. Thank you. Now you're talking my language. You know what I mean? So definitely, that's happened many times, and I think with the solidifying of Dwayne Wade, like it humbles players to say, you know what, I'm here to learn, right?
Have you ever had a player that you could not work with?
Be honest.
I wouldn't say could not work with, because that wouldn't make me great at my job, right? You have to be able to take any punch and deal with any situation possible, right? So it's been challenging once, super challenging once, but it's not their fault, right? It's about releasing that stress that we talked about.
That's where the therapy comes in.
Exactly. So
Okay.
it's like, of course, I'm trying to teach you basketball, but your mindset is not even on basketball. The way you live is not inducive to learning. Like, your house is junky, your locker room probably junky, your mind is junky.
Yep.
See how that works?
Wow.
Yep.
See how, so like, if I can go in someone's locker room and look at their locker and know what type of life they live. By just looking at their locker as a snapshot, I could tell you scramble and gamble. You are very, you're a procrastinator. You do things last minute. You're probably late for things. Your life is not in order. When you go in somebody else, I bet you if you go to LeBron's or the locker room, it's shoes here, jewelry here, this here, Gatorade here. Everything is like so perfect, like he has a house cleaner.
That's
in
because
his
he's a
locker.
Capricorn.
You know what I'm saying? And that's his story of his life, right? So
all of that, it transfers. So
For sure.
their ability to organize mentally, their locker, and then the way that they play or train.
100%. It's all about how do you approach a summer with your brain on empty so I can fill it up. You see how that works? You come to me with your brain filled, I have to empty it before I can drop my knowledge in. You know, if that makes sense?
Yep.
So it's a scramble and gamble. So like the NBA now is just full of young guys. Like one of my young guys was like, yeah, one of my vets told me I should be doing this. And I said, who? He told me who it was. And I said, your vet? He's 24.
He's a vet.
I said, it's the blind leading the blind.
Isn't that crazy
And
though? Like, you have people like Jason Tatum who are like 23, 24 years old, and they're vets.
Well, they call themselves vets through experience, right? Which is fine. But you never want to go through this life without some kind of direction, right? Somebody that's been through it, that's went through failures, right? So that you don't have to go through it, right? So now they're trying to figure it out on their own. And they're thinking like, and they're getting way more money than the people that were before them. So it's almost like, whatever. I think the NBA should go back to putting at least 2 Udonis Haslem
Right,
on the
I was gonna
bench,
say.
right? Because he's so detrimental for that team. As you see, they're probably the most well-knit team in the
Because
NBA
of-
from a Popovich, the older school coaches. They have it like they're always going to keep a vet on the end of the bench. Like James Johnson now with the Pacers, who's been with Miami. He's on the end of that bench, not because he can't play anymore. Of course he can, but you have to outweigh the pros and cons of your value, right? You're more valuable to this team of teaching our young guys who play most of the game. Why not give them the game so that they can make less mistakes? It's more valuable than actually you playing out there. Not that you can't. You just have to look at where your value lies. And whatever your value lies, remember, like I said before, let's not go against what the team wants from you. So if the team wants you to be a vet, be a vet.
I want to touch on that because, recently DeJounte Murray was on All the Smoke, and he said that Tony Parker was not that mentor to him, that he didn't feel that for him. And you just mentioned how the Spurs are an organization that tends to keep the vets on. So what's your reaction to that? Like, DeJounte describing how he felt they were trying to break his mindset.
I think he just caught Tony
In a bad place.
Well, not necessarily a bad place. It's a transitional period.
Okay.
From being the man to now you got to come off the bench. You got to try to show the young guys, no, I'm still that good. Like, so now you got the young pup coming in who's more athletic, right? Faster, Tony Parker's like, you know what? I ain't gonna give him any game, like, because I don't want him to take my spot. It's like they're in denial. Like at some point, somebody has to push you out.
And it happened anyway.
Exactly, and it's unique. Like everyone's not LeBron James, so
Right.
as you get older, you're gonna have to get pushed out. So that's a tough transitional period. It's 3 transitional periods. If you are a superstar, and then realizing that you are not a superstar anymore, and then realizing that you're out of the NBA. So those 3 transition phases are it's once again, mental health, right? Like that can be, to the outside looking in, they're like, man, you're getting paid millions of dollars, but they don't realize when you've been doing something your whole life and you've been on top, that's not an easy pill to swallow. So
Right.
a young guy coming in, Tony, if he can do it all over again, he probably will be a better vet to him. But at that moment, nah, you coming from my spot, forget it. You're going to have to learn this on your own. Which is, if it was Tim Duncan or, Ginobili and those guys there, I'm pretty sure they would have told him, like, hey.
So speaking about transitioning out,
Right.
have you ever worked with a player and realized, like, okay, it may be time for you to hang it up?
Yeah, for sure. D-Wade. And his conversations was funny because I loved his conversation because he didn't have to retire. I'm gonna be honest with you. He still could have been out there playing and doing well, but like he seen how fast like the headlights of the team, like of players. He was like, I don't want to have to do this every night. Like getting up every day, training how you have to train for the summertime, because somebody like that is such an elite level. He doesn't know how to not do it at an elite level, and that takes a lot of energy.
Right.
Right? So he's like, is it worth it? Like, put my body through this again? It's not that he couldn't. So that was like a tough conversation, because I don't ever want to see him retire. Forget training him. He's one of my favorite players to ever play the game as a fan.
Right.
Right? So to see him walk away was difficult. To have that conversation with him, knowing that it was time. It was different.
And you knew him. Like, I don't personally know D-Wade, but I was like teary-eyed. Like, I lost my little best friend.
We retired the same year, so the last year of me dancing with the Heat was the last year Dwayne Wade played. So.
Right. Yeah, that was emotional. Like I said, it was a lot of emotions. As a fan, right, and then as a trainer, and as a brother, because like D-Wade has actually spoiled me, because for somebody that is such a big time superstar, he is the most humblest person, and he's just like a big brother. He gives you so much game and gives you so much knowledge that he doesn't have to. And I'll never forget it one time. Us as trainers, we have to sacrifice so much. We gotta get up, we gotta leave our families, we gotta go fly to, wherever they're at, be there for so many, and then go to another city. If I'm seeing three guys, right, for a week at a time in their homestands, it only leaves me 1 week with my family per month. Think about that. You see how that works? So I'll never forget it. One Christmas, he was like, you know what? I'm selfish for not always asking how your family's doing, how are you doing. It's really just, can you come up here? I need work. I need to do this. I need to get back. And he was just like, I should probably start doing that more, right? And I felt like that's different. Like, I've never seen somebody even care about that, because it goes back to what I said, the transactional relationships, right? They treat it as that sometimes. And sometimes that it is what it is, right? You come in, you do your job, do it the best you can, and you don't expect a friendship, right? Because you have to think about it. And even in life, if you can't offer somebody something that's beneficial to them, eventually that relationship will fade away if it's not real, right? So if I can't train somebody anymore, what's the point of having a conversation? But Dwayne Wade's been retired for how long now? And I still talk to him all the time. So it's real friendship,
Awesome.
Let's touch on this work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you're pretty much like a counselor to these players. You're training them, but also a life coach. But how do you keep yourself mentally sane when things are happening in your own personal life?
Right. I got a great foundation. I got a great family, right, that understands me, gives me my space to work. I think the hardest thing in the world to do is walk through the door and turn it off, because I'm a very competitive person. I'm fiery all day. I'm literally a coach all day. I'm taking on people's problems all day, right? Who's helping me unload my brain, right? So like, I have my times in the car where I'm just like, before I go in my house, let me get like 10 minutes to myself to calm down, right? Think about how I can enhance my family, Don't think about anybody else's problems for the moment before I walk into the door. And my family does a great job of giving me that space. She knows, my wife will know, like, you know what, give him 5 minutes, kids. Don't just run up to him like you don't know what type of day he had. You know what I mean? So she does a great job of really keeping the house the right way. And now that my new addition to the family, which is my baby girl, is going to be tough because she don't care what kind of day I
No,
have.
she does not.
She does not care. She's in the walker now, so she'll walk right up to me. You know what I mean? So, but that also brings me joy. And it keeps me to forget what happened in that day. But then I have to continue to remind myself to turn it off because as I come down at home, I'm thinking, damn, I hope so-and-so is okay. I hope he had that conversation with that family member that's asking him for money. I hope, you know what I mean? Like, it goes back. So it's a tough job, and you just have to find time, and you have to find ways. And I have bad anxiety too. So like, I do different things to get my anxiety down, and it helps me calm down as well. And the anxiety comes from continuing to always try to be great. You always want to be on top. So like professional athletes, when they transition from competition every day, you need to talk to somebody. Don't just think that you're going to transition and it's just like, I don't play anymore, I don't coach anymore, when you're constantly in a competitive mode, you're going to have to figure out how to smooth it out, because now you'll treat your family competitive, and that's not right. They ain't professional athletes. Right. Don't treat them. You know what I mean? So you gotta find that way of smoothing it out. And the hardest part is recognizing that you have to do that. A lot of people just transition, and that's when the bad stuff start happening. They start putting themselves in bad situations, and spending all their money. Right. So like, they got to figure out how to have that smooth transition and get help. Like, it's a big thing now. It wasn't big back in the day, and I feel bad for all the people that went through it that didn't have something called mental health, right? It wasn't so big. Just thinking about all the athletes and just normal people that went through so many things, and it's so big now and it has so many resources. So I think people should definitely start using it.
So we talked about the players that you have trained that have been amazing. And the different generations, right? Because you, from the OGs to now this new generation of players. Can you tell us maybe your top 5, if you had a fave 5? Because we have this debate this week in sports.
Right.
We saw LeBron break the record, and we're talking about Michael
We're gonna set the record straight with you. That's our thing. So we're gonna start with who is your GOAT, and then your other 4 on that team.
Okay, my GOAT is tough to say that because the eras. The eras are so different. So obviously, to me, the best 2 players that ever played the game is LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Right? So it's a tough debate with those guys because they both accomplished so much, right? So you have to nitpick to try to find out who's who. So whether from Jordan's era was more physical, LeBron's era was more skilled, or they criticized LeBron for not playing like Michael Jordan, meaning Michael was the one that wants to take the last shot.
Right.
He wants to be determined. He wants to score every point. LeBron wants to beat you with his teammates. Who's to say one way is better than the other, right? So at the end of the day, they say, well, it has to be Mike. He won 6 straight championships, 3-3 on 3-peats. Bron has won a 5-9, right? But then you go back to LeBron. Well, he had a more skilled league. Think about it. He had somebody in his generation won 4 championships, Steph Curry.
Right.
Nobody in Michael's era did that to Michael. You understand what I mean? So like, the talent level was different. Yes, it was more physical. It's tough. But if I had to pick one, it's really not about them being better. It's just what I like in my preference, and I like Michael Jordan better. But LeBron is like, if Jordan's a 10, LeBron is like a 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. Like, you know what I mean?
I feel you. It's right there.
Literally right there. It's just by preference.
Exactly.
So from the guys you've trained now,
Right. Okay.
if you had to do your top 5.
Ooh, okay. Favorite players to train?
Favorite players that if you had to say hands down, these are the greatest.
Let's take away favorite.
Okay.
That's That's tough because you're gonna make somebody upset. Like, really,
They all have feelings.
We need the transactions to continue, right?
You would be surprised. In my gym, I have a mural of my gym.
Okay.
And I have at least like 9 players on there. And players are like, bro, I've been with you for 6 years. How did I make the wall? They're serious. So this is why I have to answer this question so not favorite. Let's just put them in by position as far as guys that I train frequently, because I can easily put in somebody that, you train once or twice. I don't want to count those people, right?
Okay.
I want to count the people that's been consistent by position. So at point guard, I would definitely start with Brandon Knight, who's a hometown hero from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Also grew up in Miami Gardens, went to Pinecrest, valedictorian of a top 5 school in the world in high school.
I did
was
not
a top
know
10
that.
pick in the NBA draft, played 9-10 years in the NBA. I would start him off at the 1. I would start Dwayne Wade at the 2. Of course, y'all know his history. At the 3, I would go probably Jeff Green.
Okay.
Jeff Green is one of my good friends, man. He's such an amazing person. Great family man, can give you great family advice. I love him with that. Like it's important because we have those conversations, bouncing off, and that's another way to unwind, right? What's going on with myself. But Jeff Green at the 3, probably Udonis Haslem at the 4, of course. It's the 305. And I'll probably go with Andre Drummond at the 5.
Yep. I
Okay,
like that
that's
5.
a solid squad.
Yeah.
That is a solid squad.
Yeah.
Let's put them in a hot seat.
I'm going to ask him another question too, but you go ahead.
Put me in that hot seat. I like it.
Do you think LeBron James would have won more championships if he would have stayed with the
Adriana won't let this go.
No, because he had his chance. Going 2-4 to me, these are reasons why they demonize him. Because with a team like that, right, you're at least 3 out of 4, right? You're at least 3 out of 4.
Well, the Dallas one, that was
tough.
That was a tough loss.
And he has his reasons that I won't get into why he didn't stay, right? You know what I mean?
right.
So,
That's
that's a
separate.
whole nother conversation. But he had his chance. You know what I mean? Like if he won 4 out of 4, no matter what his reasons were, he would look crazy leaving. So he would have had to stay. So I think with more success, he probably would have stayed anyway. But yeah.
So keeping with the championships, anybody who knows me knows my name is Tasha Paul. And such, because of that, Chris Paul is my cousin. He doesn't know it, but he is my cousin. So recently, James Jones did a blockbuster trade, our guy, and he got KD to the Suns.
Right.
Do you think my cousin Chris is finally going to get his ring?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I need it to be yes. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna be honest. It's gonna be tough, and it's never happened before where it's not just about being better. You have to build chemistry.
Right,
You gotta
right.
understand how people
True.
play. You have to, you have to be great off the court. Learn each other's families, right? Because that translates, right?
Right.
And you literally have just the second half of the season to do that.
Right.
So.
And they cleared out their bench so they could get KD.
I don't think they have enough on their bench either to compete with teams that are like Clippers that are 12 deep. They can go 12 deep and keep the same firepower going. So maybe not in the first year, and then maybe they can add some free agents. With Kevin Durant, though, you always got a chance. So you never know. But if it was up to me, in my opinion, no, I don't think so.
It's okay, cousin Chris. We got this.
Cliff Paul.
So we never want to go, right, when we have such amazing guests, and you've been awesome. What advice would you give young players as far as, maybe I think I can play and I think I'm great, right? And then they come and train with you and you realize maybe they just don't have it.
Right.
What advice would you give to those players? How would you talk to them and tell them?
Well, it all depends on the age, right, of that player. They're so young, you can't determine if they have the it or not. What is the it, right? The it can be just determination, passion, consistency, right? That can be the it, right? That's built up. Like there's there's, like I said, there's kids that don't see the positive reinforcement right away and they quit. Or they be discouraged and they don't give it 110% anymore. Find the love for it. I always tell a kid when he first comes to me, do you even watch basketball? Right? Do you enjoy it? What does basketball do for you? I know what it did for me. I know the priority it put in my life, right? I'm not telling you to be as insane as me and how much I love basketball, but I need to see the passion when you talk about it. Forget playing, right? So if a kid comes at me with being 3 years old, think about how easy it is to train a kid that watches it all the time. You ever see a kid picking up a ball, just emulating stuff, even if they can't do it. So if I'm teaching you a crossover, even if you never did it, you've seen it before. So if I'm asking you to do it, it's already processed in your mind. You're visualizing it, which will create you to realize that you can do it, right? But if you've never watched basketball and I'm just like, do a crossover, you're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So that's the part of the game, the love in the game. I would tell them, you have to love it first before I can do anything for you.
Because on the flip side, we have those, we're talking about the generations,
Right.
where initially you started with the OGs who they're playing the game because the hunger, they gotta provide for their families. Now you have the kids whose fathers played.
Right.
And so the dynamic is a lot different.
Right.
And so you almost feel like I have to follow in my father's footsteps.
Right.
But those kids may not have the love for the game.
Facts.
So they don't
Facts.
necessarily have it.
So to me, the fathers, kids that have sons that make it, it's harder. I'm gonna be honest. Think about it. I just said my dad helped me, my brother helped me. How is your dad helping you if he's on the road for
Right.
46 games out the year? So now they're hiring trainers, right? And most trainers treat this like a transactional situation. There's no love, there's no passion in it, right? They just train them and you leave the gym. You don't care about their day. You don't care about how they're doing in school. You don't care about who's bullying them. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like at the end of the day, these are things that fathers do. And it's not that he's not being an amazing father. It's just his job, his work.
Very
right?
demanding.
How can I be a part of your day to day? How can I know if you have the dog? How can I know if you have the passion? If
Have
I'm not
it.
exactly. If I'm not with you every day. And then it makes it worse because there's so many AAU games
Oh yeah.
going on. So they just show up to the game. I'm in town before this 6-game road trip, so I can just show up and be a father. Because in anything in life, you can't part-time criticize. Does that make sense?
Right.
I'm not gonna respect, father or not, like you ain't there all the time to be criticizing. And I know you play the game at the high level. That's why you see kids like dads yelling at him in the stand, man, whatever. Mind you, he's like, I've been the 10-year NBA, like how you not listening to me? And then they find themselves what? Listening to people like me more than their own dad who plays in the NBA. Because I'm there every step of the way. And it goes back to that T word that we spoke about. They built the what?
Trust.
Trust.
Absolutely.
So it's not that I don't trust my dad. I don't trust my dad giving me direction for basketball. I love him. I'll trust him with anything else. But that's why it's so imperative in this generation, which is trainer driven, right? Everyone's a trainer. So you have to make sure you pick the correct mentor / trainer,
Right.
like that cares to go above and beyond, and it's not just a transactional situation.
Love it. So for our viewers, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Remy Workouts. You can also follow my Remy Runs Miami page, Remy _ Miami _ runs. You can find me there at the Miami Perimeter, my basketball training facility. You can always at me, DM me. I'll try my best to respond, but you can find me there.
So there you have it. We have a Remy Workouts, Stanley Remy with us, taking players from good to great. You know where to follow him, find him. Guys, we're set.